Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dr. Music Podcast. Thank you so much to my return visitors, my subscribers. You're always appreciated. If you're not a subscriber, please consider hitting that button. My guest today is the great Brendan McCreary. Bear, one of the most versatile and in-demand composers in the industry today, a former protege of one of the greatest composers the world's ever known, Elmer Bernstein. He has composed music for motion picture and television and video games with things like The Walking Dead, Battlestar Galactica, Lord of the Rings of Power, Call of Duty, God of War for the gamers. Incredible. He has been nominated for 6 Emmys, 4 Grammys, has won a Primetime Emmy, a BAFTA, a trove of other awards for his work. Bear is joined with his brother, singer Brendan McCreary, Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash, an original Deathstalker film songwriter Chuck Cirino to write a brand new theme song for the new Deathstalker film, which is out in theaters now. The song is, of course, called Deathstalker. It is out on Sparks and Shadows Records. We're going to talk a little bit about Sparks and Shadows as well. And Bear's here to tell us all he's got going on in this incredible collaboration and in his incredible career. Bear, it's an honor to have you, man. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Scott. That was a good intro, man. I appreciate that.
Uh, and like I say, it only scratches the surface. And you're a young guy, man, and it's just you've done so much with your time, and we are thankful to have you. Yeah, and I forget what class I had at one point in my life, but I had this class where they showed a film without a score and without music, and it was just people walking around talking to each other, you know what I mean?
Yep.
There was the emotion was drained out of it, and it was an emotion, it's supposed to be an emotional piece. I forget what movie it was a popular film, and then we watched it with the film score, and it's that's 90% of it. It's really, really incredible. So obviously, you know the power of that music, that musical score. Uh,
Yeah, that thing you're describing, that's what caught my ear when I was a kid,
yeah,
watching movies and TV shows. I mean, honestly, even playing games. We're talking about the 8-bit Super Nintendo and then later 16-bit Super Nintendo. Music always caught my ear. So I'd go to see a movie with my buddies. And we'd walk out of the theater and they'd say, "Dude, did you see that part when Schwarzenegger fired the rocket launcher?" And I'd go, "Yeah, but did you hear what James Horner did with the score? He
right,
like took the Heroes theme and he like turned it backwards for that part." And they would look at me like I have a hole in the head.
right. And that was really my first question is, well, how does a high school kid get Elmer Bernstein to pay attention to him in any way? But why does a high school kid do that? I would say you were out of the norm where,
Yeah.
most kids are listening to popular music of some kind. It's usually not film scores that your high school kids are listening to. So,
Yeah.
how
I mean,
was that for you growing up?
I was definitely the oddball. And much to my sort of regret now, I really, when I was growing up, I was not into rock, metal, pop, hip hop. None of it. Even though, looking back, my childhood in the 80s and 90s, like some of the best music that's ever been written was popular at
Right.
that time. No, I was into film music. So my rock stars, my heroes, Jerry Goldsmith, Elmer Bernstein, Ennio Morricone, John Williams, Danny Elfman, Alan Silvestri, Basil Polidorus, Shirley Walker, they were everything to me.
Right.
And it was only later in life that I started to really look back and recognize all the great music I was missing. And there was some popular music that was movie adjacent that started to catch my ear. Like I got into Queen because I saw Highlander
Right.
and I was like, whoa, 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 hold on. This is great stuff. And then, I saw The Wall and I was like, whoa, 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 hold on. What's
Right.
this? What's Pink Floyd? I saw, speaking of people we're going to get to, I saw Terminator 2 and I heard You Could Be Mine. And I was like, hold
Wow.
on, what
Yeah.
is up with Guns N' Roses? And then I found November Rain and I was like, oh, this is just film music. I get it. That was my response to The
Wow.
Wall, to Pink Floyd, I mean, to Guns N' Roses, to even like Devo and Oingo Boingo.
Yeah.
Even some of Michael Jackson's music, I would hear it and go, when it's dramatic and emotional, it's film music. It's like John Williams to me.
Yep.
And
That's great.
ultimately, metal to me triggers the exact same sort of nerve center in my brain as a great cue by John Williams. It's all the same to me. It's telling a story.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly it for me. And hard rock and metal is at my core. I mean, you'll find everything back here, but that intensity of hard rock and metal really grabs me. And when I hear like a game like God of War, the Ragnarok, I mean, it's just so epic and deep. And
Yeah.
it punches me in the chest. I love that. Just shake me. I love the symphony. I go and I just shake in my seat. It's such an emotional rush.
Yeah.
It's just even the slower, elegant, beautiful. It hits me at my core, and you just do that so well. And there is that parallel, that love of that intensity in the hard rock genre, that definitely translates to your music. I think you hit that same nerve for
Well,
sure.
I'll tell you a story about how I got into metal. Okay, because I believe you're correct. Your theory here has some evidence. Okay, Scott. So I'm out at dinner with my friend Brendan Small, who had just created the show Metalocalypse.
He's been on the show. Yeah, Grounded's
Love
great.
Brendan. And Brendan, dry sense of humor, great guy. He attracts great people. So we're also out at dinner with Scott Ian from Anthrax.
Yep.
So Scott and I are talking, and after a glass of wine, he looks me in the eye and he goes, I know a metalhead when I hear one. You are into heavy metal. And I went, what, really? Oh, I mean, what makes you say that, Scott? And he goes, come on. I've heard Battlestar Galactica. I've heard those tribal drums. I know a Sepultura fan when I hear one. And I went, yeah, okay. Dude, I had never heard Sepultura. So I get home and I go, all right, Scott Ian thinks I'm in. I mean, I'm going to listen to this. I put
Right.
this record on. I put on Roots.
Oh wow.
An hour later, my life is different. Okay.
Right.
My life is different. I was like, oh my God, this is the Battlestar Galactica like taiko vibe, but they have Brazilian traditional drums and berimbau and the guitars and the voice. It all fits. I was like, thank you, Scott, for like illuminating this. 10 years later. God, I guess 15 years later, from that point, I put out my first metal record, with Scott and
Yeah.
Kim Thale from Soundgarden and Slash and Corey from Slipknot. I just tumbled down the rabbit hole, but it really was because someone who loved metal heard my music in Battlestar Galactica and
Right.
noticed something that I didn't even know was there.
Yeah, yeah, and it's same for me. I listen to it and I'm like, he gets it. This guy gets it. It's the same hitting the same nerve for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's great. And Gene Hoglan on this new collaboration, a Death Clock guy. I've been on the show. I love Gene so much. He's just
Yeah.
so easy to talk to. I would imagine he's just it's great to work with.
Gene is one of my muses in life. When I'm writing a track, and I write it for Gene. We've been working together for years now, and he's incredibly inspiring. And when I started my metal record, the Singularity, which I guess I'm going to end up talking about a lot because it's just where a lot of these connections were made, came out last year, but I worked on it for more than half a decade. Gene and Brendan Small were the first two people I sent it to because I thought they will tell me if it sucks, and I'll just be like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And their not only encouragement but also insight, notes, and their enthusiasm to be a part of it, was really encouraging. So yeah, Gene. I mean, Gene's just one of my favorite musicians to work with, and just incredibly inspiring. I mean, if you are interested in writing heavy music and you have access to have Gene Hoglan play it,
Yeah.
what else can you ask for, man?
Seriously. Seriously, he is just an incredible drummer. Whatever he touches is just gold. It's beautiful. Um, yeah.
He's also a very special mind. Like he, I mean, I think he has a superpower. Like he would, when we were rehearsing the Singularity for the live show, we were talking about a fill in one of the songs, and he was like, I'm not going to do a Gene impression. I really want to, oh, Bear, don't you know? Hey, buddy. He's so chill. He talks like Bob Ross,
Yes.
right? But he's like, hey, Bear, well, do you want this fill or the fill from the first demo? And I went, the what from the what? And he goes, you remember the first demo of the song, you did this, and he plays a fill. But then 6 months later, you changed it to this. But on the record, we decided to do this. And I was like, Gene, what?
Right.
And then I go,
Where
what are
does
you
it all
talking about?
go?
What else is in there? And he goes, oh, well, remember that other song? Like we didn't end up recording it. And I go, I don't. And he goes, it went like this. And he played it and like sang the guitar. He's a hard disk in
Yeah.
his mind.
Yeah.
He talks about seeing a show in 1979 and remembering that the drummer did something different than they did on the record, and he'll just play it for you. You know what I mean? So it's fascinating. I've also learned I don't send him demos until they're pretty far along because he'll just memorize it all. He'll memorize everything I send him.
And refer back to that first demo. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. He'll
Like
sometimes
you're
even,
supposed
but
to
it's
remember.
helpful because he'll sometimes say like, "Oh, are you sure that first version wasn't better? It went like this." And you're just, I mean, he's so collaborative and wonderful. But it is, I've never met anybody else with a mind like his.
Yeah, it's got to be great to work with, man. That's so cool. What serves as your biggest inspiration into getting into film scoring when you're little? Was it particular, like when you're really young? Like, did you go see one film, like the Star Wars film, and that did it, or
You
was
know,
it just a bunch of different things?
it was many things. My love for film music turned on like a switch when I was about 5.
Wow,
And
wow,
among those, in those early years between sort of 5 and 8 or even 9, yes, Star Wars movies were a big deal. Um, Danny Elfman scores, particularly Pee Wee and Beetlejuice. I
yeah,
was just like, what is this? Um, but it was really, I think, the first time that light came on was in 1985. I guess I would have been 6. Back to the Future. Okay, so
right.
my mom took me to see Back to the Future, and I'm hearing this
That's Sylvester,
robust
right?
theme, Silvestri.
Yeah,
Ba, 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 da, ba, 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 da, ba, 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 ba,
yeah,
ba, da, da, da. Epic. So the
absolutely.
next night, I made my mom take me again, and I had a little Fisher Price cassette recorder, and I hit record on the tape, and I held it up over my head like John Cusack, right? And
Yeah.
recorded the entire film. And then I would skip around trying to find places where there wasn't that annoying dialogue in the way. And then I discovered you could buy a cassette tape at the time or a vinyl with just the music of these films. That changed everything for me. I mean, I was a soundtrack collector immediately.
Wow. Now, does your mom know, and your mom, just to be clear, an author, a teacher, right? An English
Yep.
teacher. Um,
Yeah, she wrote novels, so she still does. So my idea of going to work when I was a kid, I thought you put on slippers, you walk into your room, you sit at a typewriter, and you imagine stuff all day. That's what I thought a job was, bro. So right, it
it is
never
for
even
you
occurred
now,
to
right?
exactly. I don't use a typewriter; I use a piano keyboard, but it's the same thing.
Right.
I was sort of doomed. No, she would take me to movies she wanted to see, so I went and saw The Natural. I went and saw Gandhi, The Empire Strikes Back, and I mean, I'm like
Which all
2,
have
right?
great scores.
They do. Chariots of Fire, right?
Did she, now,
So,
did she love the score? Is that part of the reason why
nope,
she didn't even give it a thought?
nope,
Like most
nope.
people, I'd say.
She was like most people who
Yeah.
shouldn't notice the music. Anytime somebody says
Right.
the first time I saw this movie, I couldn't help but notice how great your score was. I apologize to them, right? Like I'm ruining the movie for you. And maybe
Right.
the second time it'd be nice for you to notice, but truthfully, that's what I was like. First time through, I'm following what the composers are doing.
Yeah, man, oh man, it's really interesting that you latched on that quick, and that early in your life. Um, all of the composers did it. It wasn't just one, too. Now, you hook up. You mentioned Danny Elfman, and that brings me to Richard Gibbs,
Yes.
which blows my mind because I think of Oingo Boingo as this quirky alternative pop thing with these great talented guys in it, but you
Yep.
don't really equate it to these epic things unless you go dig deeper.
Yeah.
Richard Gibbs, part of Oingo Boingo, brilliant composer. One of your first, he had a big part in your development as a composer. You
Yeah.
worked as his assistant out of college?
I did. I had been doing student films in college. I graduated the University of Southern California, where I had a scholarship and I couldn't afford to go. And I was essentially homeless. I lived in Elmer Bernstein's house in Santa Monica for a few months, scoring a student film. I told him, Elmer, like I want to finish this student film. They have a main title sequence. I've never done a film with a main title, and I don't even have a place to live. I don't have a place to set up. I just graduated. He goes, oh, I'm traveling. You can use the Santa Barbara house. I'm sorry, the Santa Monica house. So I stayed there for a while. And I was about to put in applications at a grocery store or a florist shop. I was like, man, I mean, I need money. I'm living
Need
here in LA.
something.
Job opportunity comes up working for Richard Gibbs, whose music I admired, and of course knew he was a keyboard player, the original keyboard player from Oingo Boingo. I had simultaneously become friends with Steve Bartek, John Avila, Johnny Vatos Hernandez, and Doug Lacey from Oingo Boingo, and would actually eventually become friends with Danny Elfman, who was one of my guests at the Godzilla premiere. I guess, God, 15 years after what we're talking about, how strange and circuitous all this is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I start working for Richard, who takes me under his wing, and I'm running the studio, converting his old samplers into computer-based Giga Studio samplers by day. I'm going to get lunch. I'm getting a speeding ticket outside his house, and then at night I have access to the studio. So I would stay up most of the night scoring my student films, doing demos for songs, doing anything just to have access to a studio of that caliber.
Now, does he
And
know you're doing this? I
oh
mean,
yeah,
he knows you're interested in everything.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm writing additional cues for him. I mean, that's one thing that is interesting is that I had worked for Elmer Bernstein for years, um, various summers. Elmer was the first composer to sort of take me under his wing.
Right.
Now you got to remember, I met Elmer when I was 16, and there's some things I learned from Elmer Bernstein. I learned how I wanted my life to arc. I was growing up, and it's like I'm learning about Kurt Cobain kills himself, and then I learn about Ravel has an accident and gets a brain tumor and dies young, and I was like, oh my God. When I'm 16, I was like, music is a life of misery and death. I mean, I don't mean to be dramatic, but
Right.
like, damn,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
Then I meet Elmer. Here's a guy. That time he was pushing 70, had a family that loved him, had a career that was incredible. People respected him. He respected himself. He was successful and so generous with sharing his knowledge. I met this guy and I was like, that's what I wanted. I want to be like that guy. And
And that's so
so,
cool that his life, not only his music and what he did as for a living and professionally, but his life
yeah,
also inspired you. That's
I would say his life even more than his music because I knew his music was good. When I
powerful.
met him, I did not know about what a film composer's life could be. Remember, there's no internet.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't know where to. I wouldn't have recognized John Williams in the grocery store, bro.
Right.
Right? These were just names. These were just names and music to me.
Right.
And I met Elmer, and it changed things. I learned how he did things. I learned so much about his career, how he started, how he built this life for himself. I also learned, Scott, that was a different world. I
Right.
learned the kind of life I wanted. I learned so much about art and music and drama and filmmaking. I did not learn a goddamn thing about the film music business in the late 90s
Right.
because he was outside it. He could do he could work the way he used to work. So even when I was with Elmer, I was like,
Right.
this is amazing. I'm soaking this in like a sponge, but also I got a big blind spot. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to work for Cecil B. DeMille. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
never going to work in the studio system. I'm not going to be blacklisted in the McCarthy era. There's just so many things that like are different. So then I meet Richard Gibbs. Richard Gibbs,
A little more
a
modern.
total modern working guy, working in the film music business that I was entering in as a new aspiring professional, and all those missing pieces got filled in. How do you talk to a music editor if you're going to record orchestra in Seattle? How do you get up there? Like, are we recording to Pro Tools or are we recording to tape? Well,
Right.
what are we doing? These are all things that Elmer Bernstein doesn't worry about, right? So it was great. That was I've always looked at my career as like this yin yang thing where I met Elmer and I met Richard Gibbs. I was born in 1979. That means I grew up adoring Elmer Bernstein and John Williams, guys that wrote music by hand. But I didn't write music by hand. I had a computer by the time I was 10.
Right.
I sequenced. I'm a computer guy. I
Right.
grew up also listening to like Nine Inch Nails and electronic music. So but I had both. I had both of those things. I became classically trained and I played in rock bands in college. So there was always this duality that has helped me out in my career. And, and sort of to zoom out from 10,000 feet as we eventually get to talk about Deathstalker, that
Right.
duality is evident, right? It's like who else
Absolutely.
could take all these crazy different things and piece them together? You'd have to have a love of cult B movie scores, symphonic music, and rock music, and be able to, mix it all together. But that's been my whole life.
Man, that's so fortunate that you got that chance to be with one of the classics and be with one of the modern greats. Really, really great. But again, back to Elmer. You're a high school kid. How does one without internet? How does one talk to Elmer Bernstein and tell him, "Hey, I want to do what you do. I'm interested in this." And how do you get him to listen to you? What was your approach there?
Um,
Send him a
this is the
letter?
kind of thing that if you wrote a movie about an aspiring composer in the 90s in high school and you wrote What Happened to Me, you'd get notes being, that's unrealistic. That's crazy. No,
Right.
you got to write something else. Here's what happened. My junior year, 1995, I was awarded Student of the Month by the local Rotary Club because I had a high GPA. So they take me out of school. These old guys are all sitting around with like I forget if they had sashes or Shriner hats. I don't remember. But I'm sitting around at their luncheon. And they get up and they say, well, this is Bear McCreary. He wants to study film music. He's thinking about going to the University of Southern California. Here's his GPA, blah, 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 blah. It was so boring, Scott. I was like, please let me get back to high school philosophy. Like, I can't stand this.
Had to be awkward, yeah.
This old guy comes up to me afterward and he says, introduces himself. His name is Joe. Joe Coons. And Joe says to me, hey, I have a friend in the business. Maybe you'd like to meet him. And I got to say, I'm already a little cocky because I've heard this before. People have come up to me and said, hey, you should try to write music for like the local access news
Right.
in Whatcom County. And I'm already like, sorry. Somebody go, hey, like like the guy who writes music for like, I forget if it was like Melrose Place or 90210. He's down in Seattle. And I was already like, nope, not interested. That's not what I want to do. Right. So I go, all right, who's your friend?
Shoot
Right.
for the top, right?
I go, who's your friend? I mean, sure, whoever. Who's your friend? He goes, have you heard of Elmer Bernstein?
No way.
I go, whoa, what?
Yeah, but he can't
Ghostbusters,
be your
Animal
friend.
House, The Ten Commandments, The Great Escape, To Kill a Mockingbird. I
And
mean,
you knew it all at that time. You knew
I knew
who
all
he
this stuff.
was. Yeah.
So turns out, get this, Joe Coons runs the local boating association in my town. My town, Bellingham, Washington, if you look at a map, is the furthest most northern city on the west coast of the continental US before the Canadian border.
Wow.
It's a harbor town. Elmer Bernstein kept a sailboat in Bellingham and knew Joe Coons because every summer he would
Oh,
fly up to Bellingham, this little town in the middle of nowhere, and he would get on his boat and he would sail it up the Canadian coast and come back with his wife. They've been doing that for years. So Joe knew him, and I was like, yeah. I made a cassette tape, gave it to Joe. On this cassette tape were some pieces done by my high school jazz band, some film cues, film style cues that I had written using my keyboard for an imaginary film that I had written to score, and a progressive rock instrumental. Here's your connection, called Escape from the Machines, which I would record 30 years later with
Yes,
Slash and Joe Satriani.
yes, you
The
would.
first demo was on a cassette tape that went to Elmer Bernstein in 1995.
Wow. Unbelievable.
There you go.
Unbelievable. That is so great. What a story, man. And I usually ask this question at the end. This story alone, we haven't even gotten to to the rest of your life yet. But have you ever thought of, writing that? It's inspirational. I mean, it's chilling.
I mean, for sure, anybody who wants more of this, you go to my blog. I have been blogging about my life. And on the 10th anniversary of Elmer Bernstein's passing in 2014, I wrote a blog called My Decade with Elmer Bernstein. If you Google it, you can find it. I wrote up this story and many more about all the things I learned from him, working with him. Some charming anecdotes about some of the last days of his life, and how inspiring he was. And I what I did not write, because it was a decade ago. I'll just put a little coda on this story. Is that this summer, um, Elmer Bernstein's grandson was an intern at Sparks and Shadows, my music production company.
Wow. That
Emily, his daughter, who I knew, she was his orchestrator and worked with him. Uh, she, called me up and said, "Hey, my son is actually interested in film music. Surprise. Could he
right.
could he intern with you?" So, and of course he's a talented, charming kid who's also like studying neuroscience. Talented. But
Of
it was
course he is.
fascinating to me that in the I should add an addendum to this blog entry, because in the, I guess, 21 years since Elmer Bernstein passed, or the more than 30 years since he took me under his wing, I, thanks in large part to him, reached the point where I had a company of young people who are working under me and learning from me, that had reached the point where Elmer Bernstein's grandson would come and, intern
Yep,
for me. Like it meant so much to me.
man.
That's my, it was like a sign from the universe that I'm taking what Elmer gave me and I'm really trying to give it back.
Yep. That is a full circle thing. Wow, that is just so great. Yeah, and the company is it's so great that you're able to do that too. You have a staff, you can delegate different jobs to that staff, right? While you do
Yeah.
what you do. Just a really great thing. Let's talk about Deathstalker. I remembered that film from back in the day, and it's that B movie thing.
Yep.
But it was memorable. I'm not sure why it was memorable, but it was. Um, you're a fan of that kind of genre, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this had to be a pretty cool thrill, and especially the executive producer on it, Slash. So that's that tie-in with You Could Be Mine, and the
Yep.
all the his music with Guns N' Roses. Um, how but you got what, Michael Cirino,
Chuck. Chuck Cirino.
Chuck Cirino, writing the original song. So you take a piece of that. So it's not completely yours, but you make it yours, and it's a collaboration. That's a little bit odd for you, right? I mean, you usually do what you do, and it's all
You
you
know,
a lot of times,
it's
right?
not odd for me now.
Okay.
I reached the point, and this goes to why I made my concept rock record, The Singularity. I reached the point when I felt I had maybe reached as high as I can reach sitting in this studio writing scores on my own. Somebody gives me footage, I turn it into a score. I did that for 20 years. I'm still doing it now. But I yearned for something else. I wanted to collaborate with people. So I made this rock record starting with my brother, Brendan McCreary, who sings on Deathstalker. I brought in Brendan Small and Gene Hoglan because I was like, hey guys, is this any good? Sent it to my buddy Serge Tonkian. He wanted to do it. Then I started working with other people. I didn't know Joe Satriani, but I sent him that same song I sent Elmer Bernstein 30 years earlier. And he was like, yeah, I can do that. Working with Rufus Wainwright, I brought in Rufus Wainwright singing on a track with Gene Hoglan blast beats. Talk about a sentence you never thought you'd hear.
Seriously.
The collaboration became the inspiration for me. So now I'm always on the lookout for like weird stuff. Why don't we take this and mix it with that? If it inspires me, I'm down to do it. I'm going to contextualize all this though, because I don't think you fully understand the reality of how much of a dream come true Deathstalker is for me. Okay?
All right.
So when I'm a teenager, my friends and I are always watching cult movies. We watched them all. The Deathstalker series was just the tip of the iceberg. Beastmaster and American Cyborg Steel Warrior and Buckaroo Banzai and Flash Gordon and Evil Dead and Dead Alive and everything. It was just every weekend. We would just rent as many movies as we could carry. Watching the Deathstalker movies, the first one's fun. You get to that second one, it's like a comedy. It's very funny, and there's this music, and it's just jamming right from the beginning. My eyebrows go, pew! And after about 10 minutes, I've never done this before or since in my life. I'm watching a movie for the first time, and I lean over my buddy's rec room. He had like a drum kit and some guitars, and he had a little Casio keyboard. And I was enjoying the score so much, I picked up the keyboard, turned it on. It's like my friends start laughing because I was like, "This song is really good. I'm digging this." I played along with the entire movie, so it became like an interactive concert for me. Now, I never forgot it. I never forgot this music. So I went back to college that fall, and I yearned to hear it as this big orchestral thing because I was like, I kept thinking it sounds like it wanted to be like an Ennio Morricone Western.
Yeah.
That's what it wants to be.
Spaghetti Western thing. Yeah.
It's a spaghetti Western score, but it was all synth. And so I imagined an orchestral version and I arranged it using my keyboard. I used a guitarist that I knew at the time, and I made the epic Deathstalker cover. And I am 20 years old.
Okay, so this is
20 years old.
Way before what we hear now.
Way before.
Wow.
So then, years later, I become accomplished, known. I'm invited to my first soundtrack signing at Dark Delicacies in Burbank, signing my Battlestar Galactica CDs. And who am I sitting next to, Scott? Chuck Cirino.
No way.
Now, I saw on the email that he was going to be there, so I was prepared. So I leaned over and was like, "Hey, man, I'm a big fan." He's like, "Oh, that's cool." And I go, "Deathstalker 2, man. That's a good one." And he's like, yeah. At the end of the day, I come up to him and I go, "Hey, man, I got to tell you, like, I love Deathstalker 2. I did my own version of it, and I put a CD in his hand. I go, this was my version that I did a few years ago. In hindsight, of course, it sounds awful. But he was like, oh, wow, that's cool. He and I became friends. And, kept up with him throughout the years. And it was always on the back of my mind. One of these days, I'm going to do an epic version of Deathstalker 2. One of these days, when I have 5 minutes left over at the end of a recording session on a movie. Right. And honestly, I never got around to it, partly because I wanted to set aside the time to do it right.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to 2024, I'm backstage at the Fonda Theater with Slash. Slash was playing my debut concert for the Singularity. Awesome. We had Buck Dharma there from Blue Oyster Cult.
Yes.
Whole bunch of great guests. And I'm hanging out with Slash, and he missed most of the rehearsals. He only came to the last day of rehearsal because he was in Vancouver. And I go, "So what took you up to Vancouver?" "Oh, I'm visiting the set of this movie I'm producing." And I go, "Oh, cool. What is it?" And he goes, we got the rights to this old thing." And I go, "Well, what is it, Slash?" "It's this old movie called Deathstalker."
No
I freeze. And I look him in the eye and I just went, da dun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun dun da da dun dun dun. He looks at me like I have a hole in the head, man. He's like, "What?" And I go, "Slash, we have to do a theme song using Chuck Cirino's music." And he was like, "Okay, you know." I did a demo that week. It was like I was so exhausted from launching the Singularity, but it was the first thing I did. Is I came back into my studio and we started working. I brought in Brendan,
That's
brought
so
Slash,
bizarre.
co-wrote it, and yes, I called up Chuck and I said, Chuck, there's some magic in those synths, man. I can't recreate it. I don't know what you did. You gotta help us.
Wow. I mean the that is just unbelievable that the paths crossed so
Isn't it
many
funny too?
times.
Now that I say it out loud, Slash played on "Escape from the Machines" was the name of that track on the Singularity. That was the track that I wrote when I was 15 and I played for Elmer Bernstein. When I was 20, I did a cover of Deathstalker and Slash played on that too. That like he has been the linchpin for me to go back to these old ideas that could never achieve their full potential in my youth and re-envision them. It's just I've never actually put that together that he was on both of those things. That's so weird, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, it's just so incredibly unbelievable. I mean, it's just wow. That is just great, man.
Mm.
That is karma for sure.
It
Uh,
really is. And I felt really
it
good
is.
because, I talked to Chuck recently about this. And, I said, what was it like? He came to the recording session. You can see him in the music video, hanging
Yeah.
out with me and Slash and Gene and Omer Bensby, my guitarist, Brendan, my brother, Pete Griffin from Death Clock on bass. Um, I said, Chuck, what was it like? And he said to me, it was one of the most important moving days of his entire career. He said he's done almost 100 movies. This guy is like
Yeah.
cult movie king.
Yep.
Okay. He's never had like an ensemble record his music. He's never had an orchestra play his music. We had a live symphony orchestra record this in Eastern Europe. So he said, like, walking into that room, it's the first time I've seen musicians like in a big group playing my music. And it was Slash and all of us. So it didn't even occur to me that not only was this fun for us, for Chuck, it actually kind of gave him an opportunity to have an experience as a film composer that had eluded him even after being in the business 40 years.
Right. Yeah, I listened to his original, and it's that Casio keyboard 80s kind of simple,
Yep.
very B movie-ish, great
But
melody.
you can hear the ambition in it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
can hear what it wants to be,
Right. He just
and
didn't
it's
have.
charming the way it is.
Yeah,
But
there wasn't a means to the orchestra and the
yeah,
symphony and stuff. He had to dumb it down a little bit to be able to afford it probably at that time. And it was a B movie, so they're not going to pay big bucks for a
of
big
course.
score or anything.
I don't know that the movie would have been better if there was an orchestra on it. It's part of the charm.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, yeah. But this is so epic. And I haven't seen the movie yet, the newer one. It's got to be tremendous because and there's two versions on the record. We get a little bit more of a rocky guitar thing, takes the place of the strings and the horns kind of thing. So we get that little bit of rock and roll in it too, more of a rock song. But it's a kind of rock song anyway. It's really, really very cool, man.
Totally, man.
When you do a film, do you have to like it? Like somebody comes in and they have a film and you're really not thrilled about it, but they want a piece of film, they want a piece of music to go with, the film. The paycheck's there and everything. That's fine. Um, do you have to like it? I've talked to producers about this. Can you produce something that you're really not a fan of? You might respect the artist, but you're just not crazy about it. Do you take that job on? I would ask you as a composer. You watch it and you're not crazy about it, but you could put music to it.
It's an interesting question. Um I have to believe it and believe in it. I am a bit like a method actor, which makes it sometimes a very difficult job. I mean, I remember there was a scene in the third season of Walking Dead where character I won't spoil dies in a just heartbreaking way. And it took me a week to do that scene, and it really messed me up because I had to explore those emotional depths.
Right.
Ironically, the aftermath of that scene became a meme. It's like a joke. It's like it's the choral meme, right? But it's like, I'm sorry, that's still one of the best scenes I've ever had the honor of scoring. And 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 it's not lost on me. That's what I had to go to those inner depths to get there. And what happens afterward, I don't care. It's not my problem that somebody turned a scene in this incredible moment for me into a meme, whatever. So do I have to like it? You don't know what it is. You are part of making it what it is. So that's why I say you have to believe in it. You have to believe in the filmmaker. I'll give you an example. Because it goes in both ways. I've taken on things where I go, oh my God, I think this is going to be amazing and I love this vision. And then it comes together and it's like somewhere something didn't add up. Yeah. Conversely, the opposite can happen. I did a film called Colossal with Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis. Okay. Amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, just watch it cold. It's one of the best kaiju movies ever made. But I didn't get it. I was like, I don't get it. And I believed in Nacho Vigalondo. He was this acclaimed Spanish director who made a movie called Time Crimes that everybody loved. I thought this guy's a genius. So I was like, I'm going on for the ride. And I'm doing the film, and he's telling me what to do. And I'm like, I still don't get it, man. But okay. I was at Sundance watching the finished film with my music in it.
Right.
And I finally went, oh my God.
Now I get it.
I get it now. Like, this is a brilliant movie. Like, even when he was like, no, this scene should be this. And I was like, man, okay, but I trust you, right? That's the process. So that's the fun of it. If I don't believe in it, then you really should just get somebody who does, right? And I will usually be the first person, even in a meeting, to say, hey, I love your movie and I love your story, but I can tell, like, if you really want, like, something that isn't what my passion is, and there's people out there that are super passionate about that, like, they're probably a better fit for you.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, I gotta say though, man, just one last note. I am so lucky, right? That it's like, when people are like, well, what if you could score anything, what could it be? And it's like, I've worked with, I got to score Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Star Wars, Godzilla, God of War, Chucky, Terminator, Battlestar Galactica. Like, I could keep going. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, man. And I ended up in this position where people bring me things. It was like this perfect storm when my career started with Battlestar Galactica and Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and then Walking Dead and Outlander. People think of me for projects that happen to be the stuff I love.
That's so
you know what I mean? Like, as opposed to, I don't know anybody personally, but I'm sure it's common where you love horror movies but you land a network comedy or a cop show and you score a cop show for 20 years. You know what I mean? But what you really love is,
yeah, you're doing what you really love. Well, but you do so many different things too. That helps. You do that epic thing, and that is.
Well, I will say it helps and it hurts, because sometimes I am the something guy to a lot of people. Now that something changes.
Right.
To a certain percentage of fandom, I'm the God of War guy. That's it. They don't even know that I do anything else. I'm God of War guy.
Right.
Which is great. I love that. To a lot of people, especially people like, all my mom's friends, Outlander. I'm the Outlander guy. You know what I mean? And Battlestar obviously had a big crowd.
Dead, it's just so
Walking
huge.
Dead. That's how Slash knew me. He was like, "Oh, you're the Walking Dead guy, right?"
Right.
So it's interesting. Right. It's a wonderful problem to have. I'm not complaining. It's something when I went on tour this year. I put a tour out called the Themes and Variations Tour, which originally I was going to tour the Singularity. It's a metal show.
Right.
Then I was like, wow, I got to do some God of War. Got to do some Battlestar. Well, shit, why don't I just do Walking Dead? I ended up going, all right, touring the Singularity is not going to work. I'm going to call it the Themes and Variations Tour. I'm going to do a little bit of everything. And it's fascinating walking out and seeing my crowds. Because then I walk out, it's an incredibly eclectic group. You'd see somebody wearing a
Has
Devin
to be.
Townsend shirt sitting next
Right.
to someone wearing a John Williams at the Hollywood Bowl shirt. Do you know what I mean? Next to somebody in like a Battlestar Galactica cosplay flight suit.
Right, right.
And so then I would go like, I'd come out and, we're doing, we'd start with Incinerator, the song I did with Serj Tankian. Just
Mhm.
an extreme metal assault to the senses, and people are like, their hair's flying back. And then I would go into something from Battlestar. And over there in that corner, you'd hear, "So say we all." And then I would say, "All right, hey, this is from a little video game. Dun, dun, dun." And over here, "Whoa," God of War.
How
And then we go
cool.
into something from Outlander, and then suddenly there'd be like these older ladies from the back of the room that run up to the front for the Sky Boat song. You know what I mean? Like it's the weirdest concert I've ever heard of.
It's
And
so
yet
cool.
everybody was satisfied. I saw
Yeah.
lots of people commenting that somehow, even though like if you're here to hear the Sky Boat song and we come out and we do Last Stop, which is Gene Hoglan's favorite song, is the most blistering like death metal song on my record, and I can make it so you enjoy the night, I'm going to call that a success.
Absolutely. And it gives me great hope for generations to come. Because, and I'll be honest with you, I go to Spotify and your streaming success is way beyond what I thought it was going to be. I put your name in there and I expected when it came up to see 10, 20,000 monthly listeners, maybe, and maybe a million on one track, of plays. We're talking 52 million plays on a
Yeah.
few, and it's all of them have tens of millions of plays, and I went, God, it's such a great feeling, and I have so
And
much
this is,
hope for the
thanks,
future.
man.
It's
Well,
so
the
great.
thing I really wanted to do was take all the people that are listening to all those different things and see if under the banner of putting out a record called the Singularity, it's actually just like a low key secret program to be like, this is the music I enjoy doing on my own. And I think if you like any of this other stuff, you're gonna like this, right?
I
So,
think
so
so,
come
yeah.
on over and like, here's me working with Sarah, here's me working with Corey Taylor. But I brought in my wife Rhea, who sings the Sky Boat song in Outlander. She's on the record.
Incredible.
Ivor, who sings on God of War, she's on the record, right? So it's like bringing it all together. The other thing that's interesting, you look at one of the things I love about Spotify. Um, there are things I don't love about Spotify.
I'm sure there are.
One of the things I love about Spotify, you can see where your fans are. When you look at my top 10 cities, 9 of them are in different countries.
Isn't that
There's
great?
only one country that repeats, and it's like all over the world. So when we planned my tour, we
So
did 3 continents for the first run. We just went to Spotify, and I was like, all right, London, Sydney, Melbourne, Chicago, Toronto. Like I just went down the list. I didn't make it to South America yet or Asia yet, but it's like, and sure enough, people came out in those cities. I
you
mean,
are going
so
to appreciate it anywhere you go. Yeah. It,
it was cool, man, and I really appreciated sort of having that data on hand.
that is cool. I
So
always look at that, and and I'm proudly I can say, I'm in the Chicagoland area. Chicago is in almost every top 5, which
yes,
it's very musical city, I guess. So that's really great to see. I know guys like yourself won't skip over Chicago, if they possibly
we ended
can.
our run in Chicago. I
Yeah,
loved
at
it.
the Vic Theater. Yeah,
The
yeah.
Vic Theater, man, it was great. I loved it, and I can't wait to come back. And yeah, man, it's been a really interesting way, to bring it full circle. When I was a kid, and I loved like soundtrack music. What's that? It was such a circuitous, difficult path to eventually realize from soundtrack music to Queen and Pink Floyd and Guns N' Roses and Nine Inch Nails. It took years.
Yeah.
It was like a tree growing, right? Now, I do think, again, one of the positive things about the internet era and Spotify is that it is a little easier for people to
Yeah.
find other things that they like. And film and video game and television music is this Rosetta Stone. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Is that it's like so many people love this music, even if they don't know they love the music, they do.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
It speaks
It's
to
like,
your emotions. It's all emotional.
yeah,
It says it all. It says different things. It makes things come alive. It really, really does. Something that was still is now in motion.
yeah.
When it has your music put to it. It's really
It's funny, Slash told me, because I asked him at one point, I go, well, how did you get into Walking Dead? Because he was a big Walking Dead fan, so it was one of the first things we talked about.
uh,
And he told me that he's a huge horror fan, but he'd missed the show. He just didn't get into it for the
uh,
first couple of years. He was at Universal Horror Nights, where he always frequents. Scott, he heard this music.
that's what it
He
is.
heard my music.
How
He
cool
heard
is
the
that?
theme from The Walking Dead playing at the Walking Dead haunted house that they started with, back in 2011 or whatever. And
Yeah.
he goes, "That's cool." He said he walked over because of that, and that's why he started watching the show.
How awesome is that?
I mean, I was like,
How
I thought that
awesome.
was amazing, right?
Yep. Yep. And he's not the only one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot of people are drawn in, for sure. And I'll let you get back to your day. I know you're a busy guy. I know that.
I could
Uh,
nerd out about this stuff all day, man. I feel like we haven't even gotten to any of your questions.
seriously, man. And man, I could spend days with you, but um, the video games, I'm, I'm a huge, I'm not a, I wouldn't call myself a gamer, although if I start playing, I'll spend the whole day in front of the Xbox. So I think that's why I'm not a gamer. When
Yep.
I do it, I love it. And God of War, Call of Duty, I love those kinds of games, adventure games, shooter games. Um, but the soundtracks again. So when you're doing a movie, I would imagine scoring a film, you get somebody tells you what we're supposed to be feeling. You get a little bit of the actors and dialogue. For a game, there's not always the dialogue, or the story might not be really developed like a film, although a lot of times it is now. Um, how different is it for you? Is it the same process? Do you have to play the game to be able to score it?
You definitely don't have to play the game because the first time you play the game is when you download it and it's done. I
Okay,
mean,
yeah,
really, it
all
it
right.
it, it all comes together at the
They
last
don't
minute.
they don't give you like a demo of the game that you can play.
I they do. I have
Okay.
access to sort of get my hands on it, but you'll still see it's like the main characters running around in like a gray land.
Right.
In some cases, when I'm working with Santa Monica Studio, for example, the studio that makes God of War, part of the great thing about working with them is that they bring me onto their projects early. I was hired on God of War before the game was even greenlit. There
Wow.
was no game. So I wrote music that was part of the official first build that they showed Sony. They got greenlit. Then that first build became the E3 presentation in 2016. Again, fully polished, fully finished. I got to conduct a live orchestra in front of this presentation of this material. So by the time it was like, okay, now we're making the game, I've already been on the game for 3 years. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm thinking
Um,
that they might have designed the game around what you gave them. A lot of
there's
the things.
definitely a back and forth that
Yeah.
happens in that process. I always like it when I can create music and send it to the dev teams because everybody there listens to music when they're coding, design. Like if you think about it, every aspect of creating a game is 90% of it is people sitting in a cubicle, like working on a computer all day,
Right, right.
dealing with visuals and animation. So they like to soak in the main
Yeah,
themes and stuff like
right.
that. So that's really fun. And then I love that collaborative back and forth process. I mean, when I was doing God of War Ragnarok, it was even. I mean,
How epic is
my dude, like you can see here, I was in the game. You
unbelievable.
know,
It's
there's
so awesome.
me as a dwarf. The dwarf's name is Raeb, which is bear backwards.
Ah,
So I'm on the main path. You cannot avoid me. I look like me. I'm playing the hurdy-gurdy. I'm a cranky dwarf in Svartalfheim that Kratos, has a cross paths with. And so not only was it like I'm reading the scripts,
Yeah, like,
I'm writing themes, I'm getting lines, I'm doing mocap. I did the whole mocap suit. I'm doing line readings. I'm acting. You know what I mean? So like
how fun is
I don't
that?
know that I can even comment on a typical experience playing games or
Right.
scoring games because each one is so different.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like so much fun, man.
Dude,
That's
it was a
incredible.
blast. I mean,
Yeah,
it made me reevaluate my life choices. I was like, I understand why actors do this. It's too late for me to get good at it. I'd have to spend all my time doing it, but
yeah,
damn, that was fun.
yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. Bear, I'll let you go back to your day. This has been such an honor, such a good time, man. I hope we can do it again, man. That would be great.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah,
We'll get to like your second question next time.
yeah, yeah, right. Well, I see you on tour.
Sounds good, man. See you next time. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.